Yeah. It is a requirement. Yeah, if you do not agree with me on that issue, you're not going to help.
All right, everybody, we are here at the Clear Truth Dangerous Friends Conference 2025.
Yep.
And I'm with Jamie Bambrick.
So dangerous, so friendly. That should be our strap line.
So friendly.
So dangerous, so friendly.
Yeah, that's right. So tell me, you are on the Clear Truth Media board.
Correct.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about where Clear Truth Media is and kind of like the vision for the future.
Yeah, sure. So I think the primary aim of it was really got birthed out of what we sensed was a need in the wider church, which is that throughout COVID 2020, a little bit prior to that, certainly going on after that, a lot of the sort of well-known institutions within conservative Christianity didn't cover themselves in glory. They did a poor job in that season. Speaking to issues of culture, speaking to issues of politics in particular, they really did cave on some of those key issues of the day. If we take BLM, if we take critical theory more broadly, we can take LGBTQ plus issues, and even just some of the ongoing constant, coddle left, punch right stuff that we see going on. And the reality is that a lot of churches were and still are sending their people to those platforms. So I've mentioned them by name before. I'm happy to do it again. The likes of TGC, the likes of Christianity Today has probably gone further than that. But, those would be, key resources that people are sending people to and are using. And because some of their content is actually still useful, good biblical content, right? Particularly TGC, like their average article is not going to be a disaster, actually. They're not bad. But it's that little 10% of something's off, something's
just mischievous
wrong.
Kind of,
It introduces something that actually can send your church off in a bad direction. So you got some, hey, we got some good theology. We'll talk about the Puritans over here. That's fine. By the way, you got to go to a BLM rally, right? You're like, whoa, okay, where did that come from?
Trojan horse kind of,
exactly.
Thing. So tell me, what is the main way that CTM, so Clear Truth, is punching back?
Yeah. So what we want to be is then the solution to that, which is a broader discipleship resource that deals. So we don't just want to be like the anti-woke website. It's not just about hammering politics or just about hammering culture. It's about, can we provide a broad resource that speaks to faith and family and, yes, politics and culture and the church, all of those things. Can we do so? But can we do so in a way where if you're sending your people to it, that they are not going to get that 10% that then sends them off down that dangerous track that so many of these other ones have gone down. So we really want to be, it's not about us just trying to take them on or something. We genuinely feel there's a need for the church, like that the church actually needs a resource like this that is broad and is theologically sound, with breadth within it in terms of different secondary positions. So it's not about being like too niche necessarily. Agreed on all the essentials. We have a statement of faith that covers all of that evangelically, explicitly. So, but that is going to be reliable and trustworthy to not bring your people down a dangerous track.
Yeah, so when you talk about agreeing on the essentials and discuss not dividing on the secondary issues, kind of just communicate for me so I can completely understand the post-denominational kind of pivot.
Yeah, sure. So There are essentials. There are essentials. There are really important essentials. So our essentials, our statement of faith is like a broad, what you would call evangelical or Protestant statement of faith. So we are agreed on the triune God. Yep. We are agreed on the nature and the person and the work of Christ. We are agreed on salvation by faith alone through grace alone. We agreed on all of those sort of core theological issues. Where there are secondary issues, they would be things like Calvinism or Arminianism. We'll have writers from both of those perspectives. Our guys probably lean a bit more Reformed on average, but it's not exclusively so, and it's not a requirement. When
you say requirement, you mean for salvation?
No, it's not a requirement to write for us.
Oh,
right?
I got you. Okay.
It is a requirement. If you do not agree with me on that issue, you're not going to help. No, I'm joking. No, to write for. Yeah, of course, it's not a requirement for salvation.
Right.
But it's also not a requirement to write for us. So
Gotcha.
we're not trying to be a niche thing where it's like this is this world only that
Yeah.
we're speaking to. It is if if you are in the broader what do you call Bible believing conservative, culturally non-compromised church, right? So again, another one would be gift of the Spirit. Some would be continuationist.
Yep.
Some would be cessationist. It would be
Baptism.
Credo or
yeah.
Peter Baptist, end times perspectives, amill, premill, postmill.
Right.
I don't even know if we have any crazy dispies, but we wouldn't
maybe one day
we wouldn't say no to them. I wouldn't. It's not a requirement, right? That's okay. We might not.
You can write for us, but no.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't say that, okay? It's not Apache helicopters as much as you want it to be, okay? That's not the literal interpretation.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So you guys launched. When did you launch again? Can you remind me?
Oh, that's a good question. When did we launch? But last summer, was it July? 1st of July.
1st of July. Okay, and that went extremely well.
Yeah.
That went extremely well. And then you've got is there a like a support system so like people can
people can
money to
contribute, donate, all of that
Where
stuff.
do they do all of that?
cleartruthmedia.com.
Okay,
So they get support through there. $10 a month to get some little bits of extras, stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's exclusive kind of content.
That's cool.
What is assuming that you're willing to talk about it, what's the vision for the future? Like what's in the pipeline? What's coming?
Yeah, I think in terms of specifics, we're kind of waiting to see a little bit, what happens, what opens up, what's working. Obviously, we've got this conference on.
Yeah.
This is really exciting, actually, being here. I think there's something really powerful about getting people together. I think one of our aims actually in this is to be a unifying force within that conservative evangelical sphere, because one of the reasons why we felt this particular endeavor was worthwhile was that there's a lot of people doing good stuff, plenty of people doing good stuff, and we are definitely not the only ones, but a lot of it was sort of individual based. So we're like, I love what that guy's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy's writing really good stuff. That guy's got great videos. That guy's got a great podcast, whatever it might be. All of that's fantastic. But there's real power in bringing everybody together then to do something together. So I think doing this is really exciting. We'll see. I mean, some things we sort of thought are going to go somewhere and they didn't go quite, the way we wanted them to go as well. That is always the case when you start something. So we're not sort of trying to pin it down too much in terms of...
and it sounds like you're kind of testing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what does the church at large, what does it need?
What does it need? Where's the fruit? Where's the opportunity?
Right.
We think that the core vision is really worth going after.
Yeah.
But the medium might change on that. The medium might look different. The type of the regularity of the content or whatever. All those things are up for debate. So we're not trying to nail that down too much. We're just trying to say, look, what is actually working? Where's the appetite? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So let's say hypothetically I'm in a church and they consistently push me towards, you said TGC, Gospel Coalition, you said some of these other resources, and I'm seeing what you're talking about, and I'm seeing these little Trojan horse BLM or these more woke left-leaning articles or these ideas. What would be your advice on how to navigate that, to say, hey, no, there's this other thing, maybe church leaders, there's this other thing happening, Clear Truth Media?
Yeah. So you're talking from the perspective of someone who's maybe a layperson or involved. Yeah. So I would say don't. So one of the real dangers with that is you don't want to write off your pastor, your leadership, your eldership, or your church quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can spot a real issue, and I think your first job actually is to try and work on that issue where you can, right? So and I've been in situations like that where I've had disagreements with the direction of a church on a couple of different occasions of a significant nature, and I think you are actually called to then speak about that and try and speak into that as best you can. So I'm not saying that if your pastor reposts one TGC article on something else that's not even bad, that is not a reason to walk away from your church. That's stupid, right?
Really
you don't need to do that. What you can do is you can ask a question. You go, hey, have you noticed some issues with that? Like, have you, and part of it depends on your relationship with the pastor, how long you've been there,
approach,
even the size of that. But I talked to my brother about this. He is a member in a church, and he's had some moments where he's disagreed with things on the church, and he asked me from my perspective, because as a pastor, how should I go about this? So here's what I told him. He was going to write a big long letter, and I was like, well, that's you can do that, right? I'm going to tell you, as a pastor, I get enough emails, right? That sending that out of the blue might not be the right answer. So what I would do is this: I would go, hey, send a short one and go, hey, I have a couple of questions about this. I'm not sure about this. I think I have some disagreements and pushback. Would you be open to me sending that, whether that's in a conversation or whether that's in a longer email or Word document or PDF or document or book or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
that might help that. That's how I would actually go about that first and foremost, where you offer that conversation. And most of the time, if it's done like that, the pastor's going to be way more receptive. And actually, you're going to get a lot more fruit. And I think a good pastor is going to say yes to that conversation because, firstly, I mean, you could be wrong about something.
Yeah.
Like, so let's say it's on a different issue. Let's say it's not specifically the TGC or whatever, but on any issue, you could actually be the one in the wrong. So a good pastor is going to go, well, if I actually believe what I have said I believe, I want to disciple this person. So it's a discipleship opportunity for him as a pastor, but it's also a much better format for a pastor to receive critique, because look, pastors are flawed,
Yep,
as we all are,
that's right.
and all growing and all learning. And so rather than sort of nuking him from orbit, here's 5,000 words on why you suck,
Yeah.
is probably not a good way to go. Offering it as helpful, like with a bit of humility, that's a good way to go about that. I think if the pastor goes,
Yeah, don't blast them on social media.
No, none of that. None of that. People do that. And you don't need, to be honest, I would almost, in that situation, like, let's say you are someone who's been critical of some of those guys on socials, or post stuff that's in that season, just almost hold back out of respect for your pastor and go, actually, I'm not trying to just tell my audience about this. I really want to talk to the pastor
Right.
about this,
Right.
and try and be a good voice specifically into my church.
Yeah.
So
Nobody has gone off the rails by giving someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For at least a little while, until they've really proven that it's time to really have hard conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been in exactly that situation. So, I had a situation where for a pastor that I was working for, had some disagreements with direction, and began with some conversations with him, and then it ended up that so it was like, do you mind if I write some of the, and then it turned into like, I'm writing a book for him. Like, I wrote a book for him.
That's awesome.
Like with footnotes and everything.
Yeah.
Like just a full on book.
Is it published yet?
No, it's not published.
Okay.
I would have to rework it. It was on the whole critical race thing.
Okay.
And it was good, and I was stand by almost all of it, but I want to rework bits of it, and it never got published near the time, so it was one of those things. But I think that was a good. He respected that. He respected that way, and we never agreed. We didn't come to agreement on it, but he respected how I went about it and made the case.
Yeah.
So I would go about it that way. If the pastor says no, I don't want to have that conversation, or you really can't see eye to eye and you work through that, then you do have to question, well, am I in, if you have a strong disagreement, and let's say it is an issue like a lot of the ones that are going to trip people up are where it's like, this is not quite full caving, but it's close. So that's where it gets tricky. So let's say
we see that a lot today on social media, where there's just this lack of clarity.
Yeah. So
it's like, what are they saying? And then they can hide behind what they said, and it's, well, I didn't really mean that, and it gets really confusing.
Yeah. And you can get there in conversation, but let's say a pastor goes to, like, let's say side B Christianity, right, where it's, well, same-sex activity is sinful, but attraction, no, we wouldn't call that sinful. I would say that's an area where you're probably looking at that point to go, okay, I should probably respectfully leave this church.
Yeah.
Some of them are really obvious. If they're going woke and full LGBT, then you get it as quick as possible. Some of those other ones, you can understand how someone can be wrong on that and not write them off as a Christian, but you would go, this is really unhealthy and I shouldn't stay here.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to respectfully, then in that situation, if you've done that and you know where he stands and you can't see eye to eye, then you might leave. But ultimately, what you might end up doing by approaching it well is you might actually convince them the other way around.
Yeah.
And by having that conversation well, let's say giving some resources, giving a good book that pushes back things like that, you might actually benefit the entire church congregation for decades to come.
Yeah.
Just because you took the time to approach that well, respectfully, and thoughtfully. So it's not about dodging it at all. It's just about going, allow me to not immediately flame someone because I disagreed with them on one thing.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we talked about Clear Truth a little bit. Let's talk about the conference.
Yep.
Because that's why we're here.
That is why we're here.
What are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about? Am I allowed to say meeting Rosaria Butterfield?
Yeah.
Which I've done already.
I met her earlier.
Yeah, she is awesome.
Yeah.
No, but in general, I think it is really cool to have a group of people like this. These are people that I've by and large not met in person, but have a lot of respect for, and to see people gathering together who are really distinct, and that those distinctions are going to become more, they're going to become clearer in many ways. You're going to see, oh, that person's different than that person, but at the same time with unity behind it. Hoping to hear some great messages. Worship the Lord together with some people.
Amen.
And see what comes out of it as well. I think there's something awesome in people being in the room together and relationships being built in a way that just it isn't the same when you're on video calls or on interviews remotely or anything
Signal
like
chats
that. All of that stuff. That's great. Put people in a room together is better. It's better. We are embodied creatures, and so
community is definitely. There's no replacement for like in-person community.
No.
You can fake it as much as you want, but there's just something special that can happen.
Totally.
What would you tell people? So like the people that thought about buying a ticket to like an event like this, because this is kind of new to this area. We don't have conferences all the time. What would you say the value is? And maybe we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but push people over the edge maybe next year to buy a ticket, or if they're thinking, or maybe even this year that they weren't able to buy a ticket and attend, maybe pay for the online stream or something like that. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. What would push people over the edge? Repent. No.
That's right.
Yeah. You obviously sin by not showing up.
Pray for regeneration.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you desire.
Exactly. Be conformed to the image of Christ.
Yeah.
More seriously, I don't know of other events that are doing this right now. There's maybe one or two around the world. Certainly, where you've got people that are this different coming together. It's unique.
It is.
That is unique. And I do feel like I've felt this for a while. I do feel like we are on the verge of something of a move of God. I actually think there is a move of God happening that does look like this, where there is a fundamental biblical commitment, a courage when engaging with culture, but also some distinction between people and some of that beautiful unity and diversity that and I mean real not like DEI diversity, but actual, like, we have people that disagree, and will passionately argue their case and still get on.
Who do we have that's the furthest apart on a particular issue? Do you know?
I mean Foster's like a proper cessationist, and I am like charismatic. Like I'm like and I'm gonna say it tomorrow. They're gonna hear that.
Revival.
I gotta do that. But we love each other. And that guy's awesome. And I have a lot of respect for him. And I'm sure there's I don't want to say what other people disagree on, right? I can't do that. But yeah, there's disagreements there. But I do think there is a move of God that looks like that is happening. And actually, people getting together, they fuel those things. Like, you look at the moves of God that have happened throughout history. Gatherings were essential to them, and scale gatherings, and ones where actually these people from all over the place all hashing things out or sharing in the Word of God and worship together. So I for me, it's about more than a conference. It's about what is God doing right now in the Western world, because the Western world church, the church in the Western world rather, really does need to wake up.
It does.
Like, it really is in a bad way. And the direction of travel is really not good. But I also see there's some people who are going, we're going to do something about it, and rolling up their sleeves. And that can lead to great things. I'm not saying that we're the biggest thing yet. We're not. and I don't just mean clear truth, even this whole move is still a fairly niche thing in the grand scheme of Christianity across the world. But can God do something with that significant, and can that change the direction of the church in our nations, and can that change our nations as a result? Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, and that's why I always love your I follow you on X or Twitter or whatever it is, your social media platforms and stuff, and I always love your perspective, because someone who, like yourself and others, that you can truly trust that they are submitted to Christ. You can kind of you can smell the fruits of the Spirit, kind of on them, but not American.
Right.
And you have a totally different perspective of what's happening, in our country, and I really, it's a refreshing take, I guess.
Cool.
So I really like your perspectives, and I read all of your X posts in your Irish accent.
Oh, good.
In my head,
they are written in an Irish accent, actually. Yeah.
I read them all.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got a movie podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you watch movies?
I really don't. I really don't watch a lot of movies. I have, of course, I've seen movies.
Yeah.
If you ask me about movies, I've seen like a number of them. But really, whenever COVID happened, I just didn't watch a movie for 4 years.
Well, do you have a favorite movie?
Oh, I'm so embarrassed to tell you what my favorite movie is, because I'm so
can I tell you something that's funny? So this is really funny. So there is a positive correlation between Reformed theology and affinity for Nacho Libre.
Okay.
I don't understand it, but like when I talk to like Reformed Christians, it's like leaders, it's like Nacho Libre, man. That's like my favorite.
I have never seen.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in 15 years or something
very
like that.
sadly, my favorite movie, and it's pure nostalgia, and it's only because it changed my world whenever I was 6, is Star Wars.
Star Wars. Which one?
The whatever episode 4 is called.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how much I care about it, right? Yeah. I watched that with they got re-released. They got like the remastered version. I don't know when it was, 97 or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
I was 6 or 7 years old. Went to the cinema with my dad to watch that. That was the coolest thing I'd ever seen at 7 years old, and that's been my favorite movie ever since. Other than that, though, I have a good one. Although language.
Yeah.
The Death of Stalin.
Okay.
The Death of Stalin.
I haven't seen it. I have to check it out.
It is so good.
Yeah. Why?
Why is it so good? It's about the death of Stalin. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it called.
So like story wise though, like it's just
it is a profound way. It is one of the more conservative movies ever made in recent times, because it is a searing critique of Soviet Russia and of communism, done with this really like black humor thing going on. And but you also see a bit of the reality of the people in there. I think it's really, really interesting, because Khrushchev basically becomes the sort of hero. Now, Khrushchev is not a good guy, but he was a better guy than Stalin, and he was a better guy than Beria. So Lavrenti Beria was Stalin's he ran the KGB, and
like right-hand guy.
And he was worse than Stalin, and he would have been the next guy if it wasn't for Khrushchev being a bit of a political genius, actually, and taking big risks. And you have what's the general's name? The really famous Russian general from World War II, one of the best generals in history. Blanking on his name now. But yeah, that movie is really, really good. It just shows how dark and how evil communism is, which most movies don't show.
No, they don't.
And they really show it. But it's also a brilliant watch, and it's hilariously funny, albeit full of a lot of swearing. But, it's a bunch of communists, so what do you expect?
What do you expect? Yeah. So, cool, man. Thanks for sitting down with me. It's been a blast. I'm super excited to listen to your speech.
Oh, thank you.
It'll be really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Appreciate all your work for
Likewise.
Clear Truth. And yeah, so we finally got Jamie Bambrick. We got a movie out of the guy.
Yeah,
we talked about a movie.
We did
Jamie.
talk
it
about
wasn't
a movie.
So bad, right?
Actually, I should have said The Death of Stalin at the start.
Yeah,
I could go on about it. I really like that movie. Yeah,
yeah.
It's great.
Well, maybe you could come on some other time. We talk more about it.
I'll go rewatch it a few times.
Yeah.
Take notes. I'll try and sound really intellectual. I'll try and sound like someone who thinks about the movies. For me, movies. I'm one of those guys who's like, movies are for switching off to, not for switching on to. So if a movie is emotion, like I started Juror #2 on the plane on the way here, and it's the new Clint Eastwood one. Yeah, I don't know. I got like 10 minutes in. I'm like, this is gonna be. No, not bored. this is going to be like an emotional dream. Like I'm going to be invested in this.
Okay.
And that's not what I want. I don't want to have to try when I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
I want to relax.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that is how I treat movies. So I am not like an artsy guy when it comes to it. But Death of Stalin, it manages to somehow, you know, it's artsy enough that I would feel respectable talking about it.
Yeah.
But it is also a fun movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Jamie. All right, guys, we are at the Clear Truth Media Conference, Dangerous Friends 2025, and you are missing out if you're not here.